I was asked about breathing, the Wim Hof method, and septoplasty. So I'm going to try to cover those, even though each one could probably be a 2 hour long video on each topic. But I'll try to cover them briefly to give you some resources and some ideas. And then if you want to dive deep into this, there are some great books out there. One of them is called Jaws. In fact, actually, that's probably where most people should start. We all have terrible jaws. This is why you have to have your wisdom teeth removed, because your jaw is too small, because we tend to breathe through our mouths, and therefore our faces don't form properly. Nasal breathing is really important. In fact, actually, nasal breathing is important for a variety of reasons beyond just simply whether or not you have good teeth. So one of the things that is definitely, like, this is well documented. I'm not going to bring up anything weird here, like some type of, I don't know, yoga type thing that I don't have research to back, but breathing through your nose increases nitric oxide. And of course, nitric oxide is good for your vascular health and your heart health and everything like that. So that's a good reason for you to breathe through your nose. In fact, if you think about it, you're supposed to breathe through your nose. And your nose has mucus and cilia, and it actually, filters out pathogens. And breathing through your mouth, you don't get the same effect. Your mouth doesn't have the same defense layers as your nasal passage does. Okay, so right there's a good reason for you to breathe through your nose in the first place. Additionally, when you breathe through your nose, your mouth is shut, so then your tongue is against the roof of your mouth, and this causes your jaw to expand properly, and then you end up having a better nasal passage actually, because it expands your face. And then you end up having a wider jaw, which means that you won't have to have your wisdom teeth removed because you'll have space for your teeth and you won't have crowding. You'll notice it's interesting. Braces, it's a totally normal thing these days. Everyone has crooked teeth and needs braces. And yet, like these old ancient skulls and stuff like that, the people had straight teeth. They had good teeth. Yeah, it's because they breathe through their noses. So something's happened to us as a society, and it's not genetics. You can't blame genetics. Genetics don't change that fast from one generation to the next. I mean, I look at my grandparents, and my grandparents had straight teeth, and they didn't have braces. So what's going on? Why do we all have allergies? Why do we all breathe through our mouths? Because our noses are blocked, right? So it's important that you breathe through your nose because of this actually makes a difference in how your face forms. And so there's a book called Jaws. I recommend that you read it. So there's that. Okay, next step on our whole thing about breathing, and this kind of ties into Wim Hof a little bit. It actually changes your balance of, you can measure it using HRV. HRV was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. I hope I pronounced his last name correctly. If not, I apologize. But in any case, HRV was developed by Stephen Porges, and you can basically measure the variation from one heartbeat to the next. So the time between the beats changes. And it actually should change. You should have more variability from one beat to the next, and your heart rate should be changing. It shouldn't be like static and exactly 1 second between beats. In fact, actually, the more consistent the time is between beats and your heart rate, it actually is a stress state. So that would be called sympathetic. So you have a sympathetic nervous system, and that's like your flight and fight. That's your stress response, right? So you don't want to be in a stress state all the time. When you breathe through your mouth, you actually increase your sympathetic tone. So you are actually more stressed. When you breathe through your nose, you increase what's called the parasympathetic. That's the part that's rest and digest. So parasympathetic is the rest and digest. Sympathetic is the flight and fight. Breathing through your nose, nasal breathing, increases your parasympathetic nervous system activation. So like if you're watching your HRV and you breathe through your nose and you do controlled breathing, especially things like box breathing, so you're taking a deep breath in a controlled time manner and then you're exhaling very slowly and things like that, you're controlling your breath, you can watch your HRV and your heart rate change. In fact, actually, you can do a short inhale, long exhale through pursed lips, and watch your HRV change, okay? Similarly, you can do it through your nose. So you can breathe in through your nose, exhale very slow, and your heart rate will slow down, and your HRV will increase. So through breathing, we can actually change our state from being flight or fight to being rest and digest. You can relax. doing breathing exercises. I recommend that you check out people like Andy Galpin. Andy Galpin is fantastic. He has a whole bunch of stuff where he talks about this. And personally, this is something I've been doing for years. When I finish my training sessions and stuff like that, I take like 5 minutes and just do really nice, slow, controlled breathing. And I find that it actually helps with my recovery. I can show you data that I used to track. I don't bother tracking it anymore, but I used to use things like Ithlete, so it's athlete but with an I. I used to use there's a heart math, Sweetwater heart math or something like that, Sweet Beat or something. It's an app on your phone. And I used Elite HRV as well. So I used 3 different ones tracking my HRV. I've also used Omega Wave. I don't own an Omega Wave. We just happen to have one at one of the training facilities I was at. I don't know what the price tag is on those now, but they were like 20 grand or something like that way back in the day. I assume the price has come down, but I don't want to say that they have, and because I don't know. But they're really expensive, but they work. They work very well. And you can measurably change your HRV through breathing. So breathing is awesome. But we all know that breathing is awesome because we all need to breathe. But how you breathe can change a lot of things. It can change your stress state, which brings me to Wim Hof. I am familiar with Wim Hof. I've never done the Wim Hof stuff. In fact, actually, there's a part of me that doesn't want to do the Wim Hof stuff. So he does this thing where he hyperventilates and then hold your breath. I get it. I understand exactly what he's doing. I understand the mechanism entirely. So you're actually creating a stress response. I think I'm hesitant to do it because of the fact that I don't know what I'm doing. And so I don't want to do it incorrectly, create a stress response, and then create some kind of feedback loop where it leads to like panic attacks or something. I've read various people's posts on Reddit and things like that where they have said that they developed panic attacks from doing Wim Hof breathing. I'm sure that they just did it incorrectly. This is not a criticism of Wim. These are people who were doing it on their own. So if you were taking a class with Wim, I'm sure that he would teach you how to do it properly. But I figure that, like most things, whenever we try to do it on our own and we don't have someone teaching us the right way to do it, we make mistakes. Because that's the learning curve. You make mistakes. For me personally, I prefer to stick with things that I already do, like, the really slow, controlled breathing, the deep breathing exercises that bring my HRV, up and bring my heart rate down. I like doing those. I like to use it for relaxation. I feel like I'm one of those people who naturally probably changes my breathing in a sport situation, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain this, and so it's like one of those things where like I don't know how to teach it either. It's kind of like the Michael Jordan flaw, right? What do you mean you can't dunk off your right foot? Right, because you're so good that it just came to you naturally that you don't know how to teach it to someone else. For me, the easiest thing I can call it is like flipping the switch. I don't know how I do it. It's been something that I've always done. So you guys probably know there are people that you might refer to as a clutch player, and there are people who choke when the game is on the line. And for whatever reason, I suck when the game isn't on the line. If the game isn't on the line, then I'm not at my best. But if we're shorthanded, like if it's like 3-on-5 hockey, a penalty kill, put me on the ice. In fact, my coach has recognized it. Anytime that we were shorthanded, 4-on-5, 3-on-5, my coaches always put me on the ice. Because that's the only time I really played at my best. The game has to be on the line. If we're down 1 goal and we're on a penalty kill, I don't know, something happens. I can flip a switch. And I don't know how I do it. I just do it. It comes to me naturally. And I assume that I probably do something like changing my breathing patterns, and I get myself into that flight and fight, sympathetic state. And I flip the switch and I go. And people have commented about this to me even whenever I was doing like weightlifting and stuff like that. You would watch me train, and it doesn't look like anything special. And then finally you put a 1 rep max on the bar, and I don't know, people I can only tell you what people told me because I don't even realize I'm doing this, but apparently my facial expression changes. Like I totally just get a different body posture and everything. Um, like I don't know. I'm aware that I do this. I zone out. Like I don't. There's no distractions in the gym. There could be people doing juggling and backflips and playing music, and I wouldn't hear it and I wouldn't see it. Um, when that moment comes, I just flip the switch. But I flip the switch right back off as soon as it's done too. Like that's the thing. Like I don't know how I do it, but I do it. And I assume that that has to do with probably some change in breathing pattern. And we know that this is a real thing. There are people that talk about this, that, athletes change their breathing patterns. So you can see uh, high level athletes, if you watch them, they, right before their competition, boom, flip the switch. They change their breathing pattern and everything. They're taking shorter breaths. They're taking, they're breathing through the mouth. Then as soon as it's done, they're like, look at Usain Bolt. That's a perfect example. He's like laughing and having a good time. He hits the starting line and it's like all business. Boom. 10 seconds later, he's like back to like, hey, I'm having a good time. And he's super relaxed. So that's something you can probably practice and learn. I believe there's a book called Breath, or maybe it's Breathe, by James Nestor. That's probably worth reading. You guys should check that out. There's definitely a lot to be gained from that, especially the part with the nasal breathing. And, if you understand nasal breathing as well, it's something else to consider here is your dental health will improve. Because when you breathe through your mouth gets dry. Having a dry mouth causes you to develop plaque and tartar on your teeth. It actually disrupts. You have a microbiome in your mouth, actually. Yes, I know you have a microbiome in your gut, but you also have one in your mouth. And apparently breathing through your mouth can disrupt that microbiome and cause you to have cavities. So that's something else to consider. I'm trying to think of as many things as I possibly can hit on here that would have to do with breathing that you might want to pay attention to, but really, like, there's nothing I'm going to do in even a 1 hour long video that's going to come close to the things that you're going to learn from reading these books like Jaws or, Breath, Breathe, whatever it is that James Nestor's book is. Nor will I match anything that Andy Yalpin's done. Andy Yalpin is, yeah, like fantastic. I think Brian McKenzie has a app, Shift State or something like that. It might just be called Shift. But that's another one. That's breathing exercises. Like I said, there's the Sweetwater one. The Sweetwater, I don't remember what it's called. It's not Heart Math. Heart Math is something different. Heart Math is a device. But you know what? That's another great device out there because my wife uses the Heart Math. She uses it to handle migraines, which works. It works, actually. If you intervene early, you can actually stave off a migraine by, using the Heart Math device. Sweetwater, I think, or maybe it's Sweet Beat. I think they changed their name at some point, but it's the same thing. There's actually a guided breathing thing that goes with it, and I feel like I don't think it was Elite HRV. I think it might have been the iThlete app that actually gave you a little circle that you had to breathe with. And then, what else is there? There's something else. There's another app out there that has like a little box that expands and closes, and you breathe in rhythm with the box that expands and closes on your screen. And that, of course, is another one that helps people with relaxation. So there's a lot to breathing. You can kind of hack your nervous system because your nervous system shifts back and forth between sympathetic and parasympathetic. You're never 100%, in control of anything, but you can control your breathing. So it's like, I can't tell you, like, hey, make your heart rate 30. Like, you can't do that. Like, you don't have control over that. But you can control your breathing. And if you control your breathing, it will slow your heart rate down. Or speed it up, for that matter, if you, do the Wim Hof thing and pant really hard. All that being said, let's get into the whole thing about nasal breathing and septoplasties and stuff like that, because this is actually something that's really, I don't even like talking about this. I'm going to try to get through this as best as I can, and I'll share the story. So my nose is totally fucked up. Hockey, boxing, MMA. Yeah, I've been hit in the face so many times that it's not even funny, and I've had my nose broken repeatedly. So actually, I can only breathe through one side of my nose. I can only breathe through the right side of my nose. My left side, yeah, so I saw an ENT, and he looked up my nose and was like, can you even breathe through the left side? I was like, nope. And they took an MRI and a CT scan of my head, and they were like, yeah, it's all just bone. Like it's just bone in there. There's there's no way anything can get through your left side. I'm like, cool. What do we do? And they're like, oh, we have a deviated septum and blah 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 blah. Something to consider. Everyone has a deviated septum. That's normal. What's not normal is having an entire side of your nose closed off because it's all just scar tissue and bone. So here's the story. And I'm going to do my best to get through this because this was not a fun experience for me. In fact, I almost threw up and passed out because he was explaining to me in too much detail. So I went to go see a maxillofacial surgeon because they told me I needed reconstructive surgery to fix my nose. I don't need a septoplasty. I need full-blown. He explained to me what's going to happen here. This is why I didn't do it. He said, I'm going to take your nose off your face entirely. I'm going to cut from here to here, and I'm going to completely remove your nose off of your face. And then he says, I'm going to take your nose and I'm going to reconstruct it on the table. And I need to have a bone graft, and I need to have a cartilage graft, and I need to have all this. I need to have skin grafts as well, because I guess we're going to change everything and put my nose back on my face. And so he says, I'm going to rebuild your nose on the table. And after I rebuild your nose on the table, then I'm going to drill through, the bone to open my nose back up. And he's going to remove the turbinoids and take out my tonsils, remove my tonsil pillars, remove the adenoids, everything. And then he's going to transplant my nose back onto my face. So after he cuts my nose off of my face entirely, rebuilds it on the table, then he's going to put it back onto my face, and that's when I'll need the bone grafts, the cartilage grafts, and the skin grafts to put my nose back on my face. Yeah, so I did you guys a favor. I didn't go into graphic detail. He went into really graphic detail, and at that point I thought I was going to throw up, actually. He went into too much detail. Sometimes it's better to not tell your patient exactly what you're going to do. He should have just told me, yeah, I'm going to knock you out, and when you wake up 10 hours later, you're going to have a new nose. But in any case, he went into too much detail, and I decided, holy shit, I don't want to do that. Should you have a septoplasty? Should you not have a septoplasty? I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I just shared with you my experience, okay, and my decision. But I will say that I think if you look at the available literature, the majority of people have a deviated septum. To what degree is probably what makes the difference on whether or not you are going to have a septoplasty or not. So if you can't breathe out of one side of your nose, like me, then you may need to consider having rhinoplasty beyond just a septoplasty. And in my case, they wanted to do everything. Tonsils, tonsil pillars, adenoids, turbinoids, you name it, everything. As well as literally rebuilding my nose and doing bone grafts and cartilage grafts and skin grafts to put my nose back on my face. Ugh. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to go through that. It's not something, no, it's not. I can get by breathing through the right side of my nose, okay? So, I'm the wrong person to ask about this because I'm going to be the person who sits there and goes, I wouldn't do it, because I get physically sick when they tell me what they're going to do to me. But maybe you feel differently. Maybe you have a stronger stomach for these things, and the idea of having your nose removed from your face doesn't bother you. I don't know. It's up to you. But what I will say is you should probably see an ENT, have an ENT check it out, and then you should see a maxillofacial surgeon, not just a plastic surgeon. Make sure you go to someone who is a maxillofacial surgeon and have them take a look and have them do a very serious evaluation and figure out whether or not you can even, would a septoplasty be enough? I was told it would not. I was told that don't waste your time with septoplasty. It will not help you. Will it help you? Maybe. I hope your nose isn't as bad as mine. But, if you want to consider septoplasty, it's certainly something that's an option. I have friends who have had it done. They say it was life-changing. They said it was amazing. It was like they had the septoplasty done, and once the swelling went away, it was like, holy cow, I can breathe. And they've never felt that sensation before. It was like their nose just completely opened up. It just felt fantastic. And so they say that it was the best decision they ever made. I really appreciate that. That's what got me inspired to even go look into it myself. But when I went and looked into it, they told me, no, a septoplasty will not help you. We can do a septoplasty, but your nose is so bad, it's not going to help you. You need something far more extensive. Even, a good surgeon can't fix certain things. So if you have a septoplasty done by a great surgeon and you have much bigger problems, like I do, that's not going to be enough for you. Now, that being said, everyone's different, and so you're going to have to see a doctor, you're going to have to get an evaluation, and you're going to have to find out what works best for you. And none of this is medical advice. I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm actually telling you you should see a doctor who knows what the hell they're doing and have them tell you whether or not it will help you. Because there's no guarantee that a septoplasty will help you. You could have it done and you could be still unable to breathe, which is what would have happened to me if I would have just got a septoplasty. That being said, maybe you go to the doctor and they tell you, yeah, your nose is totally fine. You just have a really bad deviated septum. Septoplasty would help you. Cool. Or maybe you're like me, and they tell you, no, a septoplasty is not going to be enough for you. Which sucks. And I'm getting sick to my stomach just thinking about the stuff I didn't tell you. Because it is nauseating. I kind of want to vomit thinking about it, actually. I knew this would be a hard video for me to get through because I knew I'd want to throw up because I would think back to what they showed me on the screen and then showed me pictures of how they were going to take my nose off my face. Not something I want to do. Ugh. God damn, I want to vomit. I genuinely want to vomit just thinking about it. That's how bad it is. But like I said, I didn't give you guys the gory details, but maybe your surgeon will give you the gory details. So, that decision is up to you. But the part that does matter is that nasal breathing does have benefits. It has a lot of benefits. It's not just like athletic performance or something like that. And it's not like some kind of woo shit. Like, oh, well, if you breathe through your nose, it'll, I don't know, have some magical, I don't know, enlightenment. No, but it definitely will increase your nitric oxide, and it does have benefits because your nose is designed to filter the air. So it does filter pathogens out. Breathing through your nose is good for you. And breathing through your mouth, like I said, it's linked to cavities and a smaller mouth, which means that you'll have to have your wisdom teeth removed. And, there's the sympathetic parasympathetic thing. You're stuck in a flight and fight response state. So, there are real documented scientific medical reasons why you would want to make sure that you can breathe through your nose. But yeah, you have to judge for yourself in your situation how important is it to you, and how much surgery are you willing to go through. Because there are things that sometimes I'd rather just live with it than have surgery. Like they want to redo my hip, and I'm like, yeah, no. I don't want a new hip. I'm not that old yet. I can put up with, whatever wonky hip shit I have rather than going through another surgery. And that's a decision you have to make. These are elective surgeries, actually, if you think about it. It is elective. You don't need to have this done. You're not going to die if you don't have it done. So, therefore, it is elective. And that's got to be something that you make the decision on. Don't let someone else tell you what to do. Talk it over with your doctor. Find out if it will help you. Because, as I said, I was told that a septoplasty would not be enough to help me. So, if you go to the doctor and he tells you, nope, a septoplasty isn't enough, then you need to consider something bigger. But the other thing that you want to consider here is how bad is your deviated septum? Do you really need a septoplasty? Because if you look at the majority of people, like practically everyone, they have some deviation in their septum. Like no one has a perfectly straight septum. So how badly deviated is your septum? That's a question where you probably want to get a second and third opinion, because the first doctor might be like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Do I need it? I'll do it. Yeah, but do I need it? I can do it. Because there are plenty of surgeons who are more than happy to do the surgery. You need to find someone who cares enough about you to tell you whether or not you actually need it. And that's very important. So you should get a second and third opinion. Make sure that you actually need to have this done, and that will actually make a difference in your breathing. That's something you should be sure to ask. Like, will this actually improve my breathing? Because, like I said, you could have a septoplasty done and it makes no difference. But I've had friends who had a septoplasty done and said it was amazing. Now, of course, they did this after their careers were over. So after they were done boxing, after they were done with MMA. Don't go and get this done if you continue to get punched in the face. That's probably not a smart idea for you, because you'll just need to have more surgery done later on. So, I think I covered as much as I possibly can in covering it in a brief manner. I don't want to sit here and tell you about every single chapter in Jaws. That would take a very long time. But that's the takeaways, and I recommend you go read those books because they are very good books, and I recommend you check out Andy Galpin. So that's where I would head to with this stuff. As far as the Wim Hof stuff, it's up to you. Personally, I don't think I like it. I don't like the idea of hyperventilating and then holding my breath. But hey, like, some people like doing the cold shower thing. So maybe that's for you. It's not for me. I did it for a long time. I tried it for a long time, and then I realized, no, I don't like cold showers. I just feel tight and sore afterwards. So you got to figure out what works for you. So if you guys like the video, like the video. If you have questions, comment below. If you have an experience, comment below. If you've had a septoplasty, comment below. Did it help you? Did it make no difference? What was your experience like? Did you have your tonsil pillars removed? Did you have the massive surgery? Did you have your nose reconstructed? Did the doctor take your nose off and rebuild it on the table? If you went through it, share your experience with other people. Other people will read your comment, and they might find value in it. It might help them in their journey. So if you guys like this kind of stuff, be sure to subscribe. And if you tell me something you want me to cover in the comments, I will do my best to answer your questions and cover your topics as best to my ability as I can. Thanks so much for your time.